Welcome to the complete course for the GMAT Focus Edition. The GMAT has changed, and starting on February 2024, the only available version will be the Focus Edition. Now in this course, we're going to go over each section of the GMAT, and we're going to give you access to 5 individual lessons for each question type of the GMAT Focus. Now, I remind you that this course is an update to our previous course for the original GMAT, which has over 500,000 views. So, if you truly want to learn everything about the GMAT Focus Edition, stay tuned. Now, before we start, let me tell you that we're offering a free ebook with 100 high-quality GMAT Focus Edition questions, including questions for the new section, Data Insights. If you want to get your free ebook, just go to the description below and follow the instructions. Now, the first thing we have to do in order to understand the new GMAT Focus Edition is to understand the structure. So let's see it. So the structure of the GMAT Focus is this. We have 3 sections in the exam: quantitative reasoning, verbal reasoning, and data insights. So the new section that is getting added is data insights. Quantitative reasoning and verbal reasoning have always been parts of the exam. Number of questions, 64 questions in total. These questions are going to get distributed this way. For quantitative, you get 21 questions. For verbal, you get 23 questions. And for data insights, you are going to get 20 questions. 64 in total. It's important to note here that there are no longer any experimental questions, all right? Back in the day, the GMAT used to have experimental questions, which basically didn't add to your score. But this new version of the GMAT Focus Edition doesn't have any experimental questions. Basically, it means that all the questions will count towards your score. All the questions are relevant and valid. The overall duration is 2 hours and 15 minutes. So a little bit over 2 hours. And each of the 3 sections has a duration of 45 minutes. And the overall score goes from 205 to 805. Back in the day, the maximum score was an 800. Nowadays, the maximum score is an 805. Very weird, okay, very weird, but the GMAT is doing this in order for business schools to not get confused between the old exam and the new one. So when you see these new scores, then go in intervals of 10, right, 205, so you can get a 615, 625, 635, and so on. You will know that you are talking about the Focus Edition and not about the old GMAT. Of course, that's for the overall score. For the individual sections, the scores go anywhere from 60 to 90, and they're doing that also in order to make it different from previous individual scores for verbal and quantitative. Okay, so now that you know about the structure of the exam, we're going to talk about each of the question types. And here also I'm going to give you access to the individual lessons for each question type. Perfect, so now let's start talking about the quantitative section. We have 2 complete lessons for quantitative. One is for basic quantitative and the other one is advanced quantitative. So you can find the videos here or just go to the description below and click on the links. Now let's see a brief introduction of the whole quantitative section for the GMAT Focus. Perfect, so now we're going to talk about quantitative. In the quantitative section, you get 21 questions. And there's only one question type nowadays, which is the problem solving. There used to be 2 before, now it's only 1, okay? And the problem solving measures your algebraic and arithmetic foundational knowledge and how you apply this knowledge in order to solve problems, okay? Now, needless to say, on this section, you won't be able to use a calculator. Now, the topics that are being tested in quantitative would be algebra, number properties, statistics, work and distance, sets and functions, combinatorics, inequalities, and probabilities, okay? So there's a lot going on here in the quantitative section. Now we're going to see one example. We're going to do one quantitative exercise. Of course, we have a complete lesson for quantitative. Quantitative is a big part of the GMAT and you need a lot of theory, but here just for you to see, we're going to do one exercise. So take 2 minutes, which is the allocated time on the actual exam for you to complete a quantitative exercise, and then we're going to go over the answer. This one is an intermediate kind of easy question. Alright, so pretty simple. It's a question about ratios. So here, the first thing we do is we just basically translate the information that has been given to us into equations, right? So the first thing of course, we need to use a constant in order to be able to add something, add a value to our ratios. So we have 3k, k is our constant. And that should be pretty simple, right? That's something very easy. And then we just operate algebraically in order to get the constant. And we get the constant to be 200. Once we know our constant, we also know our values for the original number of Republicans and the original number of Democrats, right? Which happen to be 600 and 1,000 respectively. But the question is not about the original numbers. The question is, there were how many more voters in this district registered as Democrats than as Republicans after the registrations. So after registrations, you have to add the 600 for the Republicans, and you also have to add the 500 for the Democrats. And at the end, you get 1,500 minus 1,200 equals to 300. And that's the answer, okay? Pretty simple, pretty simple. If this one was difficult, then beware, okay? Beware, because the GMAT gets much, much more difficult than this. If this one was easy, well, that's okay, because it means you have a good foundation of quant, but you should not get overconfident because the GMAT will also get harder. This one is a kind of simple exercise. If you get totally lost, totally overwhelmed, well, then you have to do some previous work on quant before you even try the GMAT. Otherwise, the GMAT will just eat you alive. Again, go to our complete lessons for quantitative. Actually, there are 2 videos for quantitative: basic, foundational quantitative, and then the advanced quantitative. Check them out and do all the exercises there. And you also have our free ebook, so you have enough material to practice with. So let's start with the verbal section. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the verbal section. The verbal section for the Focus Edition has 2 question types, only 2. Critical reasoning and reading comprehension. You can go to them here, or you'll find the links to the individual lessons in the description below. But now let's go and see a brief introduction about the verbal section. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the verbal section. First, the verbal section contains 23 questions. And there are 2 main types of questions. You have reading comprehension and critical reasoning. Okay, in reading comprehension, basically you will have to read a whole text, a whole article. And this will measure your ability to read and comprehend reading material. So you will get one article, and usually there are going to be 3 to 4 questions associated to that article. And then you also have critical reasoning, which tests your ability to reason and evaluate arguments. Normally, you only get 1 question associated to a critical reasoning passage. And critical reasoning passages are smaller, usually of fewer than 100 words. That's the main difference between reading comprehension, which contains longer passages, longer articles, and critical reasoning, which contains short articles. And also critical reasoning is more about arguments. So you will have to weaken, strengthen, something like that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to solve a couple of questions so you kind of get acquainted with the question format. What you see here is a reading comprehension question. Okay, you have the passage on the left and you have the question on the right. We're only going to do 1 question, but remember that on the real exam, each passage will come usually with 3 or 4 questions, okay? But we're only going to do 1 here. So what I want you to do is take your time to read this article and then answer the question. You're going to get 5 minutes in total. Let's say 3 to 4 to read, and then 1 to 2 minutes to answer the question. And then I'm going to give you the answer. Perfect. So what we do here is first we focus on the keywords on the question, right? It's an inference. And then they talk about the paradigm, right? Does not apply. That's a keyword. So we have to find a location in the article where they talk about the paradigm. And here in paragraph 3, they talk about the application of Davis succession paradigm has been challenged. Okay. And let's read the part in bold. Weak currents and weak tidal energies allow accumulation of sediments, blah, 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 will proceed according to Davis' scheme. So basically, the whole theory works if you have weak currents, weak tidal energies, and if you have the accumulation of sediments. And then they say, but on stable coastlines, this does not occur. So if you don't have those 3 factors, then it will not occur. So what do you think the answer is? Here you have the answer. A shoreline in which few sediments can accumulate. Very easy, just an inference, right? Because they tell you need weak tidal energies, you need weak currents, and you also need the accumulation. If you don't have that, then this theory doesn't hold. Pretty simple, this one is an intermediate question. And of course, go to our complete reading comprehension lesson to get the whole theory for this question type. And don't forget to request your free ebook with 100 high-quality GMAT exercises. Go to the description below and follow the instructions. Here we have an example for a critical reasoning question. So you're going to get 2 minutes, which is kind of the allocated time you get on the real exam to do this. And then we're going to go over the answer. Perfect. So the first thing we do is we have to read the conclusion. That's also what you're going to see on our full lesson for critical reasoning. We're going to teach you to go step by step. So once you have the conclusion, this one is a cause-effect relationship. Then you have antibodies for herpes cause keratitis. That's what they're trying to support, right? They want to support that. So let's go and analyze the first one. Other types of virus, they say, have surface proteins that resemble proteins found in various organs of mice. So they say other types of virus have surface proteins that closely resemble proteins found in various organs of mice. Okay, how does that help us to support that the antibodies to herpes are causing the keratitis? It has no relationship at all. So that one's out of scope, not the answer. Let's go and analyze B. There are mice that are unable to form antibodies in response to herpes infections. And these mice contract herpes at roughly the same rate. Okay, so if they don't have antibodies, they don't have the cause, right? Because our cause was antibodies, but they still get the effect. That's a weakening. That's not a support. So that one's out because it's the wrong way. We want to support. We don't want to weaken the conclusion. The third one, mice that are infected with a herpes virus but do not develop keratitis produce as many antibodies as infected mice. The same thing. So they're telling us that we have antibodies, but in this case, these mice have no keratitis, which goes against the relationship, the causal relationship we were trying to support. That one's out. Letter D. There are mice that are unable to form antibodies in response to herpes infections, and these mice survive infections without ever developing keratitis. That one's the answer. Because they're telling us, if you don't have antibodies, if these mice are unable to make them, then they will not develop keratitis. So, supporting the causal effect, right? No antibodies, no keratitis. So, if you have antibodies, you have keratitis. That's definitely the answer here. And the last one, mice that have never been infected with herpes virus, so they don't have herpes, can sometimes develop keratitis. That one works against what we want, right? Because we want to say that the antibodies are causing the keratitis, and here they tell us that you have mice that have no herpes, which most likely they won't have antibodies, and they still have keratitis. So that one's out, and our answer would be the fourth one, D. Pretty easy. This one is also an intermediate question, okay? Of course, go to our full, complete lesson for critical reasoning in order to get the whole theory for this question type. And don't forget to request your free ebook with 100 high-quality GMAT exercises. Go to the description below and follow the instructions. Perfect. If you're liking the video, subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to click on that notification bell so you receive updates when we upload a video. Okay, now let's talk about the Data Insights section. This is the new section. If you want to go and see a complete lesson for this new section, just click on the link here, or you'll find the link also in the description below. Now let's see a brief introduction about this new section. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the new section, Data Insights. Okay, back in the day, this was known as Integrated Reasoning, IR. Now it is known as Data Insights. And you get 20 questions for this section, and there are 5 question types. The first one is data sufficiency, which measures your ability to recognize which data is relevant. For those of you who are acquainted with the previous version of the GMAT, the original GMAT, these data sufficiency questions were part before of the quantitative section. Now they are here in the data insights section. Second question type will be multi-source reasoning, in which you will need to examine data from multiple sources. For example, reading passages, tables, charts, etc. And you will have to combine all that data in order to get your answer, okay? That's the one that takes the most time. Then you get the table analysis that basically measures your ability to sort and analyze a spreadsheet. From my experience, I can tell you that after tutoring hundreds of students for the GMAT, this one is the easiest, table analysis. Then you get graphics interpretation, which measures your ability to interpret information in a graph. And then two-part analysis, which measures your ability to solve complex problems in which you will see verbal and quantitative combined. So now we're going to give you a little peek of what this integrated reasoning section is about, and you will need to solve one question, okay? The question you're going to solve is this one. So this one is a graph analysis. What you're going to have to do is, typically you'll see 2 questions related or associated to this graph, but here we're only going to do one because of time. So let's go and do it, analyze the graph, and pick your answer. You have 2 minutes. Okay, so this one is pretty simple also. It's kind of a Venn diagram. So the first thing we do is we use the sets formula, right? Total is equal to first set plus second set minus intersection plus none of them. So here we have all those values. What they ask us about would be basically this, right? Under 30 or a high school graduate, or implies addition. So everybody who is under 30 plus everybody who is a high school graduate, adding those two without overlapping, of course. And here we have that under 30 is the second set minus intersection plus none, and the graduate would be the first set minus intersection plus none. So basically what they're asking about is for this whole section, yes, everything except the intersection, right? That's all the people who are under 30, who are the set on the right and none, and all the people who are high school graduates, which is the set on the left plus none, right? We are not going to repeat none. So actually all of those people are the ones that would fall in the category. A probability is our selection over the total number. So it's 250 people, 25 of these symbols, over 30 symbols, which is 300 people. And you get 25 over 30, 5 over 6, or 5 out of 6, which is the final answer. This one is an easy to intermediate question. And of course, go and check our full lesson, complete lesson. You'll also learn the theory for the other question types. And additionally, if you have your free ebook, go to the description below, full instructions, get your free ebook so you have more than enough material to practice with. Perfect, so now let's talk about the main features of the GMAT Focus exam. Okay, the first feature is that the GMAT Focus is a CAT, an adaptive test. Okay, what does it mean to be adaptive? Basically, it means that the exam will adjust the difficulty of the questions according to your own performance in the exam. So let's say if you are doing good and you are answering most of the questions correct, they will start giving you harder and harder questions, and you'll be able to reach those high scores, let's say towards an 805, right? But if you start messing up, if you start making basic mistakes, the algorithm will notice that and they will start giving you easier and easier questions, lower quality questions, and in that case, you won't be able to reach those high scores. You're gonna get a low score, okay? So that's what it means to be adaptive. The previous GMAT, the original GMAT, used to be adaptive also, and so is the Focus Edition. That hasn't changed. The second feature is a feature that is unique to the Focus Edition. On the Focus Edition, you get an unlimited number of reviews. Basically, you're able to go back and see all the questions you've previously answered, okay, within a section, of course. So you can see as many questions as you want. Now, you can also change up to 3 answers in a single section. So let's say if you're doing verbal or quantitative inside that section, you can change up to 3 answers. So that's a new benefit that comes with the GMAT Focus Edition. The third feature is that you can select the order of the sections as you wish. So you have 3 sections. In total, you have 6 different ways to select the order. You can start with any of those sections as you want to. On the previous GMAT, you could only select 3 combinations, but in this case you can select up to 6 combinations, so you can arrange them in any way you want. The fourth feature is that you receive your scores in 3 to 5 days. So this is a little faster than the original GMAT. Of course, we are talking here about the official scores. And when you receive your official scores, you can send those scores to the universities, up to 5 universities for free. Okay, so here you have the chance to send your scores after you have received them, after you know what your score is going to be like. Okay, so if you like the number you see on the screen, then you send it. If you don't like it, well, you don't, right? This is a little different from the previous exam, the previous version of the GMAT. The fifth feature is that the GMAT Focus Edition includes an analysis, an in-depth analysis of your score. So basically, when they send you your official scores, you're going to be able to see which questions you got right and wrong by category, by question types, by difficulty, your timing. So it's a very in-depth analysis that will help improve in case you want to take the exam again. This was available also on the previous version, but it had an additional fee. In this case, the GMAT Focus Edition includes free of charge this enhanced score report. The sixth feature is that you're going to be able to use a calculator for the data insights question. That's very important. Not for the quantitative section. On the quantitative section, everything is by hand or mental operations. But on the data insights section, you can use an on-screen calculator. Seventh feature, well, let's talk about the validity of the GMAT. It's valid for 5 years after you take the exam. You have up to 5 attempts to take the exam in a 12-month period and 8 exams maximum in a lifetime. Okay, so you'll never be able to take the GMAT Focus Edition over 8 times in your life. So this is an introductory lesson video for the GMAT Focus Edition. Go to the individual lessons to learn everything you need about the particular individual question types. And also, if you want to know what's the best way to design, to outline your preparation for you to get the maximum possible score, we also have a full video about how you should prepare for the GMAT. You'll see tons of tips and tricks to optimize your preparation. If you're watching this video, I guess you want to go to business school, then subscribe to our channel, because in our channel you'll find a lot of information regarding business school applications. And also one more thing, if you are trying to apply to business schools, most likely you're going to have to take the TOEFL or the IELTS. We have complete courses both for the TOEFL and the IELTS. They are among the highest and most watched videos on the internet, so go there if you need help with your preparation for the TOEFL or the IELTS. My name is Rod, I'm with Liberty Test Prep, and see you next time.